Hey guys, Mike here from Benny Outdoors. Today, I want to give you a quick lesson on my favorite bait. It's right here, belly weighted reaction tackle 3/16 hook with a Kitech Easy Shiner. That's Pro Blue Shiner for the color. On an FX Extreme Angler Series 6'3" medium heavy. The rod does make a significance because you want a super sensitive rod when you're doing this technique. But you could also do it on a spinning rod. You don't need to necessarily use FX. I just really like FX's rods and the price point is good for me. But ultimately, the way I fish these is fairly simple, but there is multiple techniques that I do with this one setup. The very first technique that I do is chuck and wind. Cast it out, let it sink for a little bit, slowly retrieve it. You do not want to work this bait fast. The point of this bait is to be a snack, is to be unintrusive, unviolated, just basically this tiny little bait fish slowly meandering through wherever you're reeling it. Now keep in mind, this is a weedless application, so that is a good thing. You can throw this into the grass, you can throw this over rocks, you can pretty much throw it anywhere. Now if that's not working, another sneaky little way I fish this is almost like a Texas rig. Essentially, that's what it is with a belly weight on it. I cast it and I leave it right in the edge of the grass. Right in there. I'm leaving it there. Haven't even clicked my reel yet. And then I pop it once. I let it sink. And then I start to retrieve it. And the reason I do that is because with that belly weighted hook, it makes that bait hover. It makes a kind of pendulum back towards you. So when it hits the edge of that grass, it has a tendency to go down at an angle to the bottom. It kind of looks like a stunned or wounded bait fish. And if those bass are sitting there against the edge of the grass and they see that thing just kind of fall and then they see it pop up and then start swimming, it basically mimics a bait fish that got stunned, something happened to it, it got knocked out, drifted to the bottom, shook its head, and took off. And you've seen, fish do that when they get hurt. They will sink and then they'll kind of pop up. Bait fish have that type of reaction. So it's a very sneaky little trick, and a lot of times those bass can't even help themselves. Their natural instincts tell them that's a free meal, that's a wounded animal that I can just go eat, I don't have to work for it, and they will attack that bait. So that is the second way I fish these. The third way I fish these is a little bit funky, and you want to make sure, this is the key to this part, is you want to skin hook the barb of that hook. You want that hook to be buried in that bait. The reason for that is because what I'll do is I'll go way deep into a grass mat, into the thick part of lily pads, and I'll let it sink just like we did before, and I reel it through. You will feel resistance. You'll feel that bait pull backwards. Just keep reeling. Because of the profile of that small bait, because of the way that hook is buried and that belly weight, you're able to pull that through, and you'll feel it. You'll feel it pull back. You'll feel it resist, but just slowly reel it through that vegetation. If it's thick grass mats, if it's lily pads, whatever your vegetation in your area is, get it way up in there. Let it sink. Keep your rod tip pointed down so you keep that bait under the water. Because what that's actually going to do, especially on like a lily pad flat or super thick vegetation, is that grass is going to hold that line up out of the water. So what's actually going to do is it's going to make that bait just barely swim below those pads or just barely skim the surface of the water. And it kind of looks like a bluegill or another bait fish that's kind of looking and meandering around the tops of that vegetation looking to feed, because those types of bait fish feed off of algae and other stuff on the bottom of those pads. And those bass that are laying down deep, what they'll do is they'll come up and they'll lash out and strike at that bait. So those are three different ways to fish one single rig. And the best part about this rig, you can fish this on spinning gear. You could probably fish this on a push button reel. It really doesn't have to be a super advanced setup. I like to fish it on fluoro just because of the finessiness of it. But If you like mono, if you like braid, I've caught fish using this technique on all different kinds of lines. So it's just something to try, guys. If you haven't fished this technique, if you haven't used this bait, try one of the 3 ways I just showed you. Pick up a few of these baits and let me know down in the comments if it helped you guys or if this is just something that only works for me. I want to thank you guys for coming along with me. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and as always, let's get out there and catch more fish.